Okay, so welcome to Coming Alive Part 5, all about the frequency scanner that we're using. So just to kind of give a bit of a summary of where we're at. So we've talked about the journey, we've talked about gut health, we've talked about hair testing and mineral balancing. 1 second. Sorry, I don't know what happened there. Okay, so yeah, let me just go backwards. So in terms of the journey, so we've done a whole hour all on the Coming Alive journey, where we also spoke to one of the parents who had been through the experience of the Coming Alive journey. We've talked about hair tissue mineral analysis. We've talked about gut health, talked about toxins. And now we've done EFT, so emotional freedom technique. And now we're doing the frequency scanner. So some of you watching may have already had a scan or be part of my membership and have them weekly. Some of you may have your own device. Either way, tonight really the purpose is to explain what it is, what it does, share a little bit about how it's used, and answer any questions. So I've got a list of questions that people gave me a while back, and I'm going to try and answer all of them to my best ability this evening. So let me start with this. So what is it? So what is this magical frequency scanner that I'm using? It's the future of non-invasive digital body analysis. So it's a bioresonance device, and it uses radionics to detect abnormalities in energy frequencies within cells, tissues, and organs in your body, which is just incredible, really. And it really is just fascinating technology. And if you think Tesla Einstein theory that everything is energy and vibrates at different frequencies, it kind of makes sense, right? So the digital body analyzer identifies specific frequencies in the human body and has a compiled database of more than 120,000 frequencies. So every cell and organ in the body have got their own distinctive vibrational frequency. Now, the reason I got into this was, if we think of the Coming Alive journey, so we think about the fact that we do hair testing for minerals and metals, we remove the foods or the toxicities, and replace them with other things, and then obviously, like, we move into looking at nutrition and gut health, and when we get to the gut health, this is where we end up with talking about, my passion: parasites, yeast, and bacteria. And it's the one thing that makes a massive difference, because if you've got heavy metal toxicity, which majority of people do, then you are sure as heck going to have that parasite overgrowth, yeast overgrowth, because we're providing that breeding ground for our bodies with the heavy metals in them. So actually, when I first started looking at devices, and I was looking at a Rife machine, I was looking at the Healy, and I was looking at this body analyzer with AO. So I'd looked at many different, and I was also trialing the Healy, and I was trialing other things as well. So, my children had other things that we were using. Now, what was really interesting is, because we got to this part of the journey, and I was very passionate about the fact that, we're getting the body strong. So by doing the mineral balances and the metal removal, and, making sure that we've got a toxin-free environment, and then doing like basic gut health, our bodies, the immune system is a lot stronger. So actually, when you then start thinking about, the yeast or the bacteria or the parasites, I was like, you almost need a zapper. And I got that from Dr. Hulda Clark, The Cure to All Diseases. And in her book that she wrote years ago, I bought this book probably 20 years ago. Yeah, 20 years ago, I think I first bought The Cure to All Diseases from Dr. Hulda Clark. And she said that every single disease was due to parasites or pollutants. And, in fact, my research study that I did with the children with neurological issues shows that 95% of them had a heavy metal toxicity. So, that's your pollutant, your toxicities. And a lot of them had over 85% had gut issues at birth. Those that I've tested, every single one of them has either got one or three of either yeast or fungus, so candida, parasites or bacteria overgrowth in their gut. So one or three of them. And that makes sense, because if you've got heavy metal toxicity, you're going to have a breeding ground for the parasites, bacteria, and yeast. So I kind of got to the point where I was like, Dr. Hulda Clark recommended a zapper to basically, and that worked on frequencies. And that's what really drew my attention to this, was the fact that what she was saying was that parasites resonate at a certain frequency. So if you zap them at a certain frequency, they can't live in your body. And I was like, makes sense. Totally makes sense. But then you kind of talk about digital body analyzers, and people kind of look at you a little bit like you're a little bit cuckoo, but it's actually genius. So there's lots of people that were going out and buying what Dr. Hulda Clark recommends. And then I realized just how much this machine actually did. But just kind of going back to the whole parasite thing, what bought me with this device, and I really should have brought up the stool sample. I paid over £380 for a stool test to check for worms, parasites, bacteria, the leaky gut, dysbiosis index, and lots more. So I paid for a stool test. And granted, I use it in my practice, so they totally has its uses. And it gave me the information that I needed with specificities of what was going on, the gut inflammation markers, etc. So I said, if the scanner comes up with the same parasite for Nathan, like, what are the chances, as what came on the stool test, I'm bought. And lo and behold, blastocystis hormonis came up on the frequency scanner and was on my stool test. And I was just like, wow, you just can make this up. And on Leon's, candida was on there, and he had a severe candida overgrowth that came back in his stool tests. So for me, you know, it was just absolutely amazing. And in the frequency scanner group, there's testimonials in there from people that have had blood tests to actually then what's come up on the scan. And, you know, it literally gives you the information. So it is just incredible. So that's just a little bit about it, a little bit about why I got the device, because this was almost the, you know, the final bit is, you know, how can you actually help remove parasites? Because, you know, people don't realize that actually they are the little buggers that cause quite a lot of issues with illnesses. So, you know, if you've watched Journey Part 1, you'll have heard about Darcy, who had epilepsy seizures, and she was riddled with worms. And, you know, for probably half of her life, her mum had seen pinworms and she'd treated them several times, and they were really persistent. So, you know, we were dealing with worms. You know, we personally in our house were dealing with bacteria and yeast and parasites as well. And you don't realize the impact. If we're talking about gut-brain connection, if you have got a parasite overgrowth, there is so many research papers, and I could give, you know, if people wrote in the comments and you wanted certain research papers on different parasites, I could link parasites that came back in people's stool tests to epilepsy, to neurological issues, to whatever else. There is research actually out there. So, you know, parasites can be the cause of so many different things, you know, in illnesses. And so I just wanted to make sure that I had something that could support the body. In fact, when I first scanned Nathan, was when MTHFR gene actually was showing red on the scan in the vitals report. And I always suspected that he had MTHFR. And if we go back to, you know, my big thing in my business is going to the root cause. So when I finished my research study, which I will be publishing soon, I'm doing final kind of finishing touches to it. When I publish that on my website and, you know, take it off, send it off to PubMed, that information obviously shows about the heavy metal toxicity. But after I did it and I kind of shared that 95% of people had the heavy metal toxicity, in my head, I was like, why? Why have all these kids got such heavy metal toxicity? And clearly their bodies don't detox, because everyone takes in heavy metals all the time. It's in our food, it's in water, it's in rice, it's in, you know, our food chain, it's on herbicide, pesticide, it's everywhere. Like, you cannot get away from heavy metals in our environment. This week, it was published of something that I said over a year and a half ago about heavy metals being in baby food. So, you know, you just kind of, it's everywhere. So how can some people handle heavy metals, and how can other people not handle heavy metals? So I kept going to the root cause of the root cause of the root cause, going, but how? Like, why? And it was interesting because obviously, like I said, I'd always suspected MTHFR, which is affects your detoxification pathways. The body can't convert folic acid into folate. I'll do a whole talk on just gene mutations another time. That's not what this is for, but it showed it on the scan. Now, to prove again that the scan was right, I sent off DNA tests, I did genetic testing, and it showed me all the gene mutations that my children had. So yes, they had MTHFR. Nathan had a double MTHFR gene expression, Leon had one, but Leon had other genes that came back in a DNA test, but it picked up the MTHFR on the scanner and also picked up detoxification issues. Makes sense that they were storing and holding on to heavy metals in their tissue. And just fascinating, really, that, you know, so we've got blood tests showed exactly the same on the scanner and picked it up. The parasite was exactly the same, and MTHFR showed in the gene test, in DNA testing, and showed and picked up on the scanner. Like, it is amazing. And I've got so many stories that I could share of how it is able to do that. You know, one of my friends had infertility issues, and ovaries came up on the scan instantly, and now she's getting ovulation tests, 100% positive ovulation tests. And it's almost like, you know, this is just incredible because she's never had that before. So that's just a little bit about it. So this is probably the biggest thing that people ask me. And to be fair on all of you, this is what I asked everybody before I bought the machine. I was a real skeptic, but at the same time, I also believed in energy and energy frequency. And, you know, the fact that you can pick up negative energy from people and you kind of end up in a bad mood. You can pick up positive energy. Like, energy is a thing. And, you know, people send Reiki energy from a distance. That's energy healing. So how can you run a scan from a distance? Well, everything is energy. So it's using your personal imprint, your personal information of your voice, your picture, your date of birth, your height, your weight, etc. So it's resonating to your personal frequency and vibration to actually scan. And then it's able to look at the indicators of stress and disease. So it is, you know, hard for people to kind of comprehend. But if you think about all the other things that can be done on a distance, you can do body talk from a distance, you can do Reiki from a distance. You know, there's so many energy medicines that you can do from a distance. It makes sense. So let me just talk about a few of the reports. I'm going to pull one of them up. But this basically is the inner voice. So basically what we do on the scans is I have your voice clip and I put it into my machine. I'm actually I can't put this on the screen because it's plugged in. I can't reach it enough, but I'm just going to log in so that you can hear what happens. So basically, I'm just logging in and then I will get it. So the inner voice looks at imbalances and disruptions in your voice tone. It is incredibly powerful, incredibly powerful. Now, when I put in your voice basically into the scanner, and what I'll do, actually, I'm going to try and show the screen. You have to excuse this. Let me see if I can unplug it for a second. One sec. I'm going to see if you can see it. It's plugged in and it might not. Oh, I've got my scarf on. Oh, hang on. I'm freezing cold. So I basically go to inner voice on here and I want you to see what happens. So I'm going to talk into it. So I'm going to do it here. So I'm just going to talk into the machine for 12 seconds. So you'd be asked to do a 12-second voice clip. You can talk about whatever you want, or you can do your ABCs, or you can say that you're looking forward to what the scan's going to produce. And there we go. It now is analysing imbalances and disruptions in my voice tone. And then what comes up from that is a ton of reports. Well, it's not a ton, it's actually 4. I like to exaggerate. And it's then come up with 4 different things. And then what it does is it tells you different body parts that potentially are being affected by that imbalance, the emotional issues that you may be facing. So we've got procrastination, which actually I've been procrastinating something recently, which is interesting. There's then the balancing octave, which is the sound therapy file that you're going to listen to. Now, this one, you get 4 reports, basically. So you get the inner voice information, and then you get 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's a balancing tone for each of those 4 reports. Now, you'll also see that there is a balancing colour. So on mine, that one says violet. Yeah, so that says balancing colour violet, represent the future, imagination of dreams. You can't see me, look at me, I'm all snuggled up. Calming the emotions, inspires and enhance psychic ability and spiritual alignment. That's really interesting because my gut is always right. And while at the same time grounding. So that is like really interesting, actually. And then it gives you a load of information. Now, if you were using colour therapy glasses, you would use the violet one because this is the last one on the report, which normally means that's the energy that's more stuck. So that's what you would use if you were using the colour to go with it. Now, you can just listen to sounds. You don't have to use the colour as well. But if you were, and I have to say I'm loving the colour glasses, you would put those on and listen to all of the tones with that one set of colour glasses on. You don't have to keep putting a different set of glasses on. And then basically you will get, because you will get an email. So if you've got the machine, you can listen to it off the machine. If I'm running your scans for you and you're part of my membership, then obviously I will send you an email and you will get 4 MP3 files. Now I can just click on here and you will get, my volume's down because I've been running frequencies remote, and you will get some really lovely music. And I'm just going to let that play so that you can hear it. So what it checks when we've scanned is it's checking the pitch, the balance, the pace, and imbalances in your actual voice. And then you get the sound therapy files to help balance the body and the brainwave frequencies, which just are incredible, like what we're seeing in people being able to release certain emotions, and the way that then the scans are changing over the weeks of what people are actually starting to express. And it's almost like an onion layer, and you know what you're peeling off it is amazing. And then it'd literally just go through that file, and then you would listen to the next one because you click on your MP3. And then it'll go on to the next one. I'm not going to let you sit here for 10 minutes. But basically that those voice tones last around 10 to 12 minutes. So we always say, listen morning and night. They're best with headphones if you can. Now, some people have asked me, you know, could you be playing at the same time or reading a book or doing something else? I personally like to sit and relax and have the earphones in because I just find that it's really peaceful. Yeah, I guess you could be doing something else. I probably wouldn't be doing like reading a book personally, but you know, I like to just be really chilled in morning and night when I'm listening to them. What else was I going to say on this? I'm trying to think. I don't think I was going to say anything else on this. Okay, so while I'm here, I'm just going to talk about the other scans and then I'll pull up the actual reports on the computer. So then basically on this, I would then run a vitals report. So I've not run mine, so I'll do it on me. So I'm just going to scan. So on your report, it'll say before scan or current, it'll say current scan, and then after the scan, I'll show you what it says in the report. Or previous scan and current scan, it says. So this will be the previous scan. So when I'm first scanning, before I'm sending any frequencies, this is what it's doing. So it's checking what's going on in my body, which I'm sure there'll be lots in there today. So it's going to go through. This one's quite quick. I'm not going to keep you on to do the comprehensive because it takes so long now. It used to take a couple of minutes and it takes like triple the time now to do it. But we'll just let this one go because it's nearly done. It's literally working through, it's working through toxicities at the moment. Oh, it's telling me it's on low power mode. And it's going to die. Okay, well, I can't show you the rest because it's dead. Oh, that's because I've had to charge my phone to share stuff with you. But then basically, I would then run the frequencies. So it'd scan once, I would then run the frequencies, and then let me show you what would appear. Let me just find it 1 second. Let me find it. Okay. There we go. Okay. So this basically is then what you would get. So I'm bringing up of one of Nathan's old ones. So what you'll see on a vitals report is it checks blood. There's certain things that I specifically look for, omega, omega-3, omega-6, fatty acids, and then it's got a whole thing on, obviously, my thing that I love to see, digestive function, inflammation, oxidation. So this is all kind of my bag because of the gut stuff. Insulin resistance, pancreas, and then we've got amino acids, digestive acids and enzymes, macrominerals, microminerals, vitamins, and this is really interesting. So the minute I start seeing B vitamins, often this really does come up with like gene mutations as well, which is very, very interesting. And you'll see on here, look at that, there's Nathan's MTHFR after we've scanned. So this is after we've just scanned him, and this is after we've balanced the frequencies. So the machine has literally sent the frequencies, which then has supported his body, and it's turned green. Physical functionality, brain nerve. This is one that I really look at, because if these stay red for a number of time, this is where then I start looking at the phototherapy, which is what those of you that have been scanning with me like 4 or 5 weeks, I'll be talking to you about that with certain markers that I'm seeing on here, so that we can have a look and see if there's anything else that we can do to support the kids. Collagen index, hormones, immune system, and then the bit that I'm most interested in, lung function, reproductive, skin, thyroid. Here we go. Allergies and pollen, allergy and sensitivities. So if you're getting something that is double red, normally I would try and cut those out until the next scan. Or, you know, if you were keeping it in and then it was double red the next time, then you may want to then cut it out. And because obviously the body is struggling somehow. Look, like gluten, he's got a sensitivity to. Milk, this was quite a while ago. I think I did the scan. Rye, wheat, what else came up? Lamb and pork. He definitely hadn't eaten any lamb and pork. And then you've got bacterial diseases, of which I know some of these came on his, this was absolutely on his stool test. So was this, so was that. So, you know, really amazing. The actual parasite is, I don't think it now expresses. I'll have to have a look at a sec. Fungus, so we've got candida, human toxins, heavy metals. I'm going to touch on this now because there was a question in the group around heavy metals, and somebody said to me the hair reports are showing like mercury toxicity or arsenic toxicity or something like that, but it's not showing up on the scan. So let's go back to, what is this? This is not a device to treat or cure. It's a bioresonance device, which is helping to support the body. And yes, it can give us indicators of different markers for disease and things. But essentially, you know, it's not there to treat or cure, to go, this is your issue and this is what you need to do. Because actually in the hair test, what you're getting is you're getting the specifics of the actual amounts and how they relate to minerals and things like that. So actually, I personally take more around the hair tests. This is looking at the frequencies of what potentially is, you know, bothering your body at that moment in time. Now, another question, because it's on here, is what does it mean when they're red in this column and green in this column, or where they were green and then they go red? So this is a really good question. So if they're red and then they go green, you know, that's obviously the frequency has been sent and is now supporting the body. If it stays red, then obviously it hasn't balanced out. But that's the ones that then you'd look at over a period of time and kind of go, you know, has that actually stayed red for like 3 or 4 weeks? Let's look at the pattern. If it's gone from green to red, it's a temporary adjustment because of the other frequencies that have been sent. So it's temporary. When you then rescan, that'll more likely change. Then you've got molds, you've got parasites, which I'm always really interested in. And then you've got viruses as well. So It's got absolutely loads on here, but the most important thing, so people go to me, oh, you know, I have no idea how to read these things. And to be honest with you, the machine is working every single time. It's energy frequency, so it's supporting your body. So you don't have to understand these reports inside and out, because we're not sending this to, you know, treat or cure or diagnose stuff. It's there to support the body. I'm just trying to get to the top of the page, but it's not working, so we won't bother. So yeah, it's there to support the body. So I would not be stressing about, needing to, you know, look at every single report in detail. And what you can do, I do have a template of all of the things in that list. If you wanted to jot all of the things that were read, whether it be in the before scan or the after scan or the double reds, if you were to log all of the reds over each scan and you wanted to track it, which you could, I do it as an extra paid service. I can run the scans because they're doing the work, they're giving you the voice files, and that's what people basically pay that low cost membership for, or they can get their own device. Now, you know, if I'm spending hours on inputting things in spreadsheets and stuff to then give you advice, it's just not really a great use of my time. But if people wanted to pay for it, then they totally could. I think it's better that other people do that. But if you were to go, I've put all these in a spreadsheet and actually these 3 things have come up time and time again as read, you know, can we discuss it? Then absolutely we can discuss it. And that's where we might be looking at other things, whether it be, you know, antimicrobials to help with the parasites and bacteria, or whether it might be phototherapy patches to help with specific things, with the, you know, cranial or glutathione and things like that. So depending on what is coming out over a period of time, I would not go on one scan, because this is energy, it's energy frequency. I'd be looking at what is showing consistently over a longer period of time, like 3 or 4 weeks of scans. So that's really important. And then the other scan is the comprehensive scan. I'm just going to see if I can share that one. I think it's here. No. Here it is. So some of you that were having scans 3 or 4 weeks ago, you'll notice that this has now changed. That actually now what you can do, this is really quite cool, is if you look at your, whoopsie, I've got someone else's up and I don't need to see names. I'll get that out. So what you'll see is, again, it's got the before scan, which is when we actually do the frequency, and then after we've ran the frequency. Now, what's important in this one, and I'm just going to explain, is, well, there's a few things. So there's the numbers, which is important. And then you've got, actually what you've got here is a little thing that you can do. So there's arm left arteries, for example. So if you hover, if you're on I'm just trying to think, if you're on a phone, I think you just literally press on it. But on a laptop, I would just left click and it's showing you the 3D image basically of where it is. So if I was to go onto this one, it's literally going to zoom in and show you what it is actually picking up on, which is absolutely insane that it can do this, but it is just so accurate. It's scary. And what you'll see is that it goes from, you've got arteries, arm, head, one sec. Let me scroll. Here we go. Arteries, left leg, right leg, lower body female. So obviously men's would have a different one. Upper body arteries. And then you've got all the different chromosomes. One thing that I look at quite a lot, I'll show you, and I know some of my patients are obsessed with this report, if I can find it. There's so many different markers on here, it's actually ridiculous, and you don't need to go through them all, because what you'll notice is, look, it's going from red to amber, from blue to green, you know, so it's supporting the body. This has got from 38% from ideal to 25% from ideal. So the lesser the number, the better. So this is improved massively. I'm just going to keep going. Connective tissues, I'm still on C. We're getting there. Connective tissue, left shoulder, right elbow, right foot. I mean, seriously, the things that this does. And I bought it to help zap parasites, but it does way more than zapping parasites. It's crazy. And then you've got the ear left, ear right. I just want to show you so that you can see everything that's on their heart. Arms, lymphatic. Like, this is always an interesting one for me, because I always talk to people about getting their lymphatics moving when they're doing heavy metal detox. So like either brushing in the bath or jumping up and down on trampoline and getting the lymphatics. There's loads of different things that you can do to help the lymphatic system. Also the phototherapy patches help with that as well. But obviously the scan does too. Muscles, head left. Muscles, leg right. There's so many, it's ridiculous. The torso, nerves. This one's always an interest one for me, with the brain, bearing in mind that I'm helping a lot of people neurologically. So that one's a fascinating one. I sometimes have a little nosy at. Nerves in the head. Nerves, legs. Organs. And here we go. This is the one I was looking for. Digestive, because obviously a lot of the kids that I help have got certain things going on with the digestive system. So it's always interesting to see how far it is from ideal. And it's just lovely when you see it going down, because obviously you want the lesser number, which I think is brilliant. Organs. Lungs. There's just so much on here. I could be scrolling for ages. There's loads. We're nearly there. So you can see it's called comprehensive. I think you can understand for a reason. It's extremely comprehensive. And, you know, on any of these, you can just click and it'll bring up what it is that we're looking at. So it is just pretty amazing, really. But again, if you're seeing that there's something, you know, on here as red every single time, then, you know, totally there can be a conversation around, actually, you know, is that something that, you know, I can assist with, or do we need to speak to somebody else, or, you know, whatever it might be. So, you know, you could even then get certain tests if something was, you know, coming up that you were concerned about. But I would not go on one scan. I have to say this quite a few times. I would not go on one scan. I would be going on, you know, what's happened over a period of time, and not just one scan. That's really important. So basically, you've got 3 reports. You've got your inner voice that you're going to listen to morning and night. You've got the vitals, and that one obviously for me is just really interesting with, you know, toxicities and metals and things, and MTHFR and all things like that. And then the comprehensive. Now, in terms of the numbers on the comprehensive, I should go back because I've just realised I didn't go through that with you. Jumping about here. That's what I was going to do. The numbers. Let me go on one where there's multiple numbers. So 1 or 9 is basically showing critical. 2 or 8 is showing as severe. 3 or 7 is like moderate, 4 or 6 is mild, and 5 is balanced. So you can see the greens in 5 are balanced. 4 or 6 is mild. Yeah, in the blue. And then 3 or 7 is moderate, 2 or 8 is severe, and 1 and 9 is critical, which will be in your red. I've already said the closer to 0% to ideal is the better. That just showing that, you know, the condition in that part of your body. And that really is the scans. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly scroll the questions and just check that I have answered them all. And I'm also going to check YouTube and see if there's any questions on there as well. So give me just a couple of seconds and I'm just going to check all of the questions. Okay, I've got a few here that were asked, and I think I've answered most of them. So if the section was green and then turned red, what does it mean? Where it starts red then turns green, does that mean that's made better, for want of a better word? Yeah, absolutely. The ones that have turned red and they were green, that's just a temporary imbalance, so I wouldn't be worried about that. My question was about seeing 2 scans, one that says current and one that says previous. I was confused. Okay, I've got a few here. All the time. So yeah, so the previous scan is what we've just scanned before we send the frequencies, and then current scan is once we've sent the frequencies. So that's that. How long do improvements last? This is really interesting. Energy changes constantly. So, you know, if you've got your own device, you could run the inner voice scans every day. I personally recommend that you do the vitals and the comprehensive weekly. You can run the comprehensive a couple of times a week. Some people do. But this is almost a, you know, if everybody could afford this in their household, I would absolutely advocate it. 100% advocate it. But you know, I'm going to be really transparent, because obviously, you know, most of you are in my Coming Alive group. You can get the device yourself. I need to get the exact cost, but it's around $500. It's actually just a bit less. And then basically the subscriptions go from anything from $149 to $299 a month, depending on which programs and access that you basically get. So there's the basic, there's a professional, and then there's like one that's going to have dental and other scans available as well soon. So you can get the device for yourself 100%. And you could use the inner voice every single day. You know, you could scan frequently, or, you know, those of you that are on my membership, so for £30 a month per person, basically I run the scans for you. It is a little bit time consuming for the comprehensives, because that now takes longer because it scans so much more. But this is something that I will be using constantly now, because energy changes constantly, right? So if I can use something that helps my kids, then absolutely I will do. So that was probably a real rubbish answer. I'm noticing, oh, this was right at the beginning when somebody started, actually 8 weeks ago, this was asked. I'm noticing huge emotion, a bit like early days of metal removal and minerals. Is it an equivalent of detox being triggered by the sound therapy? And this was a really good question, because the inner voice stuff is actually quite deep. And, you know, I found myself crying actually when I was doing the inner voice. The first 2 or 3 times I listened to it, I actually had a good old cry. So that was quite interesting. So absolutely, you are releasing certain negative energies and emotions, which is a positive thing. Another question was about comprehensive reports about the 2 numbers. We've covered that. What else? Love to hear my thoughts on the role of therapy, so nutrition, minerals, EFT, TRS, zeolite, alongside this sound therapy. And I totally see it's part of a package. If you've noticed, everything that I'm into is very much like energy medicine. So, you know, we're thinking EFT is tapping, it's energy medicine. You know, you've got the sound therapy from this and the frequencies, and you've got, you know, phototherapy for those of you doing like any like brain balancing or using the glutathione and things like that. So it's, you know, it's energy medicine. It's totally complementary. And I see it very much as supporting our journey. And actually, I use this towards the latter part of people that were on the research study. In fact, now I'm putting this alongside the journey. So I'm not waiting till the end. I'm using it alongside the journey, because it's picking up certain things that, had I have known someone that had the MTHFR gene expression, for example, 3 months ago, I'd have been advising absolutely, you know, certain things with nutrition, and diet, like with gluten and sugar, and, you know, actually noticing about soy and corn and things, because, you know, certain things will trigger somebody with an MTHFR gene expressing. So it's totally complementary and works alongside what we're doing, to truly help the body. What else? Yeah, and then we've got the one about the nutritional analysis and how they relate to our hair reports. I do not go personally by what's on the scanner for telling you guys what to have mineral wise. I use the hair tissue mineral analysis 100%. Okay. So for repeat weekly scans, do we need to book those in with me? No. So basically what I do now, and I will be emailing everybody this week, is basically schedule a day that I scan each week. And then all you have to do, I only need the voice clip when you're rescanning. So I only need the voices for me to actually do the rescan. The others everything's already inputted into my machine, so I can just run it. But the voices, to get a new voice clip and your new sound therapy files, I just need to run the voice again. So I just need another 12-second. Should you only listen to your own audio tracks, you can, it's not going to harm you listening to other people's. The ones that you're being sent, ones are just specific for you to help you based on your voice. It's not going to do you any harm listening to somebody else's. Do you need to be awake? I often fall asleep listening to mine, so I wouldn't be worrying if you're awake. If you're asleep, I like to listen to mine, and the kids actually tend to listen to theirs like in the morning or at night, or, you know, during the day. Sometimes they might do an extra one. Just checking other questions. Okay, I'm not seeing any other questions. But like always, if you've got questions that I haven't answered, then obviously, you know, feel free to pop them in the Facebook group or go to the website and get onto the Facebook group. Or, you know, message me off the website. There's links pretty much to email, to the website, to Facebook. On every single platform that I've got, there's a link back. So that is pretty much the kind of basics of, you know, what it does, how it works, what reports you get. But really it's working every single time, and I can't stress that enough. You know, it's supporting and helping your body every single time. And you know, now those that are using the scan, that were kind of on the latter part of their journey, are seeing really beneficial results. Darcy used it, obviously, who you heard from in part 1, towards the end of her journey, and it's been, you know, amazing to help. And I think, you know, definitely from the parasite point of view, we used antimicrobials, but also the scanner. So I will come back and look to see if there's any questions that have pinged through after I've finished, and I'll make sure I answer those. You can put them either in the main Coming Alive group or in the frequency scanner group, either way, and I'll answer the questions, or put them in the comments. Oh, excuse me. Put them in the comments, and I'll either reply to the comment or again put it in the group, either way. So thank you for watching. This kind of, I said I was going to do a 5-part series for the Coming Alive formula, and that pretty much kind of comes to the 5-part series. But what I am going to do is I am going to do further talks on things like MTHFR, you know, things like phototherapy patches. What else? We've done EFT. I might do some NLP stuff for parents. And then I'm going to start continuing with that Nudge Don't Nag series. So there's going to be lots more videos that I'll post, and webinars to invite people into, so that you can still continue understanding what you're going through. And just remember that it's a journey. You know, our bodies didn't get toxic and sick and whatever else overnight, and the healing journey isn't overnight. It's, you know, it's longer term, and you definitely want to be kind of getting 2-3 hair tests in, and you really start understanding your body, you start understanding food triggers and stress triggers, and it's just incredible. But the scanner has really been a fundamental piece of the jigsaw to get to this formula, which is just incredible, and it's really helping and support lots of people in many different ways. So, you know, some of you might have been following the story around somebody that I used to work with 20 years ago, and she's been under the NHS for like 5 months. It's like October, November, December, January. Yeah, 5 months about. Started off with like a bite on her leg, and ended up with huge lesions all over her legs, like literally like something's eaten into her skin, and she was really down and depressed and in pain, and her leg was really throbbing. And I ran a scan on her, and it showed arteries in her leg at like critical, which wouldn't surprise me because it literally looks like her leg is being eaten alive. And I've been running the vitals on her, and she listened to the voice therapy files last night. And she rang me today, and granted, I've done a lot of pushing in terms of getting her specialist help that she was just, you know, not getting. And she rang me today, and she goes, "This is the best I've felt in like 6 months." She was laughing, she was happy. And it is just really incredible that, you know, something from where I live to where she lives can make such a difference. But it does. You know, we've got the stories of, you know, the infertility and, you know, the ovaries and the parasites with Nathan and the MTHFR and other thing, and you're just like, wow, like it's just incredible technology. And I truly believe either every house needs one or everyone needs to have someone scanning them. It is just incredible. But I'm hoping that that's answered some of the questions that people have got. And I'm always in the group, so just keep talking and connecting. And yeah, I'll be back soon. Take care. Good night.